I seen this tweet above me that says, I think it's not my job to educate you, as a phrase has done tremendous harm to left-wing community. And not only do I agree, but I think that this is part of the reason why young men are becoming more conservative comparative to their women counterparts. I mean, there have been studies showing that young Gen Z women have skyrocketed, going more to the left side than comparative to men. And I think that this disconnect comes from the concept that women are more emotional and men are more logical. And I think that that phrase is true, but not in the way that it's interpreted. Because a lot of times when that phrase is said, it's said in a way of like, oh, men are smarter than women. But in reality, I think that that phrase just means that men's ideas can get skewered with data compared to women who, once they have a thought about something, it's harder for them to change their mind, even if you show them data saying otherwise, because they feel in their hearts or their minds or whatever you want to say that their initial thought was correct. Compared to men where, they have an idea and then you go, actually, this study says this. And then they go, maybe I was, even if it is something that you don't need data to see, which is why men hang on to phrases like facts don't care about your feelings and stuff of that nature. As an example, right? Gay people. Naturally, gay people shouldn't be a political thing, but it is, so we're going to use it as an example. If you said something like gay rights, women tend to see that as why wouldn't everyone have rights? Because they don't need any sort of logic or sensibility to understand that people should have rights. They believe that the gays should have rights, along with black people or whatever else you have in mind. Comparative to men, which will ask questions like, why do gay people need rights? And it sounds stupid, like that as a sentence sounds dumb, but young men ask these questions. And so going back to the phrase, when young men ask the question, why do gay people need rights? There are lots of leftists and left-wing individuals and liberals and whatever else you want to say that simply don't answer. They say, figure it out yourself, educate yourself, Google it, blah, 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 blah. They don't educate. And oftentimes they get upset at the concept, which, understandably, right? Why would you ask if somebody needs right? But a lot of these young 12, 13, 14, 16-year-old men just genuinely are curious. They're like, why? And so people on the queer side of things don't necessarily answer these questions because they feel like they don't need to answer these questions, especially when, like I said, women who think more emotionally rather than logically, they're like, yeah, of course you should have rights. We don't need to question it. We just think you should. However, these young, impressionable boys, since they didn't get their answers, they're going to maybe do what you say and Google. Or they're just going to keep asking the questions. They say, why? Why should I help the gays? And using the debate that we had last week, right? What was the big takeaway from this? That Trump was very, very loud. Regardless on if he was saying was right or if he was lying, he was significantly more aggressive in his opinions than Joe Biden. And so when these young, impressionable boys that are, in middle school or high school or even college, because remember, men's brains don't fully develop until we're 27, compared to women whose brains develop when they're 24, 25. Women literally mature scientifically faster than men. But regardless, these young men who are asking these questions are going to get their answers. And certain demographics of people are very loud, regardless on if they're saying things correctly or if they're wrong. They're very loud and they're very obnoxious about it, and they love to hear themselves talk. So a young, impressionable boy who is trying to figure out the world, if he asks, why should I support the gays? And you have a liberal that turns, why are you asking questions? You're so ignorant. Why? Just do it. Do your own research. Learn. You compare that to even if they're wrong. Son, I wouldn't trust a gay farther than I could throw a Jew, and I can't throw a Jew too far. I count him back from the war back in Vietnam in 1977 when I was helping my buddy fight these goddamn Viet Cong screw-ups. But let me tell you something about these gays. I swear to God, they're so grooming your children. They're going over, they're taking over the schools, they're taking over. Regardless on if they're right, the young men who ask the question are getting their answers compared to people who don't want to answer it because it should be obvious. Also, a big thing that somebody said at the bottom of this was that the entire point of being an activist is to educate people. If you say that you're an activist for women or queers or black people or anything, but you've said, I don't feel like educating you, you need to teach it yourself, you're not an advocate. The entire point of advocating for something is to tell the uninformed people why they are uninformed and to give them the proper information. Regardless how you feel about her, Greta Thunberg is a heavy activist because not only does she go around actually doing things to help the things that she's talking about, but she also actually tells people why they're wrong. She doesn't just go around yelling at things, right? But I think that a lot of people, especially in the modern day, because the political ideologies are more obvious, right? Like black lives or queer lives or anything of that sort, that they're more obvious to a rational individual, that people feel sort of, annoyed that they have to educate people on that. But when you don't educate people, you are actively pushing them to the other side, because the other side is going to take that lack of education and they're literally going to tell the people what they want to know, not what is actually around. If you don't educate an uninformed individual on something that you believe in, somebody who believes in the opposite thing is going to tell that person lies about you because they don't like you. Regardless, this was a long video. I probably cut it down for time, although maybe I didn't. Regardless, though, subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on TikTok and do all the other things because internet.